Hey everyone, another knife review. What we got here is the Benchmade 860 Bedlam. This is probably one of my baddest, baddest looking blades that I've ever owned, and it is a monster. Just really quick in terms of specs, you've got a 3.95 inch blade. And mine is the full black tactical looking straight edge, plain edge. It is a 0.125 inch blade stock thickness, although it does have this swedge right here, so it tapers down and looks a lot thinner near the tip. But I guess I'll mention this now. Even though the 741 Onslaught also is a 0.125 inch blade, that one tapers down so thin near the tip that it literally just bends. It's kind of like, it's very pliable, but this one is much, it feels solid and it's very thick, so I can't really bend this one just by pulling. If I did this with the Onslaught, you would just see the blade kind of just bend and bow like this. So anyway, overall length of this knife is 9.71 inches, so just shy of 10 inches, 10 inch blade. I think this is probably my longest blade, and that's probably due to the handle, because when it's closed it's 5.76 inches long. So this again is a huge blade. You've got the axis lock here, which it is a good lock. It's not one of my favorites. It's great for closing, one-handed and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I still like frame locks, and liner locks have grown on me a lot. So yeah, so axis lock. It is part of Benchmade's Black Class knives, and you have 154 cm blade, and then inside you've got 420. I think it's 420J stainless steel liners. These are blackened or parkerized. And they are skeletonized as well. The handle scales are G10, and you can see the texturing that they did on this G10. It's awesome. It looks awesome and it feels awesome in the hand. It provides pretty good grip, when it's not like overly grippy like some G10 has done. And just the texture and everything, makes for a really nice looking knife, as well as a useful knife, if you really do want to carry this knife. On the tail end, you also have a blunt tip, or I guess you could use it for glass breakers or whatever, but if you carry it, I guess like this, if you were to hit somebody or bludgeon someone, I think they call it a skull crusher or something like that. I mean, this is just gonna, I don't know, man. I think I'd rather be stabbed by this thing, because it'll just kind of be a smooth cut, but rather than just bludgeoned with this end right here. So this is made out of steel, and yeah, man, that's gonna hurt. Pocket clip is not your standard Benchmade, like split arrow or their solid kind of Benchmade clip. This has it's kind of a deeper carry pocket clip, as you can see right there, and it's got little 2 screws for attaching on there. And then it's got one little G10, or I'm not sure if it's aluminum or steel spacer, right there. Okay, so yeah, so Benchmade Bedlam. This is a humongous knife, and it actually surprisingly fits well. One thing I forgot to mention is that it's also a heavy knife. With all this material, it weighs in at 7.1 ounces. But, all things considered, sitting in your pocket and given the length and everything, it actually fits surprisingly well in the pocket. And it's not overly intrusive putting it in. I mean, if you can think about, sitting in your pocket this much, not that much stands out, and it's still a thinner profile than some other knives that I've tried to carry. One that's comes into mind is that large Lum Chinese that I own. This profile is relatively thin for as big of a knife as it is, and I think that's due in part to this Persian shape blade. Apparently I think I was reading that this was, made for, some Middle Eastern country, for their imperial guards or something, for them to carry as a defensive weapon. So, yeah. Anyway, some overall impressions of this knife. The way that the bottom part here is cut out, with these grips, I think it makes a perfect grip. It fits in your hand. If you're gripping up like this, it fits in your hand perfectly. That these two little humps are perfect for each of your fingers to lock in, and then your other two fingers just rest in this large cutout here. There's a little bit of jimping here for grip, and then there's some grip jimping down here as well. And this grip, unlike say the 707 sequel that I own, or like the Benchmade 940 that I used to own, this jimping actually works really well. Even though it sits within the G10 scales, I feel like this locks in your fingers really well. And then you've got this small little thumb ramp, and this jimping. This is probably, in my impression or my opinion, one of Benchmade's best use, of jimping. So. I mean, I've tried out a number of other Benchmades, and I've owned many Benchmades down the road, and they never really impressed me in terms of jimping. In reverse grip, you've got a little bit of jimping here on this skull crusher, so that kind of helps to lock your thumb in. And then again with the jimping down here against your pinky, now your pinky sits within, and your ring finger sits within these two little choils here. So it's a perfect grip. This is a great knife, a great defensive knife. Not that I ever plan to or want to use it in a defensive way, but if I were to rip this knife out, I would hope that whoever is opposing me would get just scared and run away. I know I would. So this knife, I just like it just because of how bad it looks. So anyway, to give a couple of size comparisons. Here you have it against my other big knife. Here, the Spyderco Military, if I line it up against the Skull Crusher, I think is just slightly shorter than the Bedlam. Maybe by like 1/4 of an inch to a half an inch. So yeah, I couldn't believe that the Bedlam was actually bigger than the Spyderco Military. Here it is against my Benchmade my Lum Tanto, so definitely about 3/4 of an inch larger than that one. Here it is against my Strider SMF as well. The way the blade sweeps and just the overall length and everything, it's a huge knife. So but again, it sits surprisingly well in the pocket, and then it just dwarfs the large Sebenza surprisingly. So, overall impression, is this a practical knife? Probably not. Is it just a cool knife to have in your collection? Absolutely. Some people, I've talked to a lot of like LEO law enforcement guys, or even military guys on the forums, and they thought about bringing this knife on the forest or in the desert, and I think it would make for a pretty good knife. I've taken this knife apart, and cleaning it is a pain in the butt. With the axis lock and with all the liners and spacers and stuff like that, it's a pain to clean out. It does have this kind of semi flow through design to do like a cursory cleanup, like if you just blow some air through there or whatever. But if you were to take this apart and try to re-grease it and stuff like that, it can be a bit of a trouble to do that. But overall, this is a great knife. Definitely one that I'd add to a collection, and that's why I did. So, yeah, so here you go, the Benchmade 860 Bedlam. I hope you like it, and let me know what you guys think. Alright, thanks. Bye.